Hello Reds, welcome along to All for United.
Hello and welcome to All for United with me, John Foster, MUFC. Something slightly different tonight. We've got some rival guests on as well. So we've got Ryder from who supports Chelsea. We've got Marissa joining us in about 10 minutes' time. I'll get some proper introductions in shortly. We are going to shout out the men's team as well. First things first, I'll let Ben have a little say on that in a bit. Well done to signing Jadon Sancho. Eventually, we finally got there. It's a massive signing. I think it's great to show that we've still got that bit of pulling power to get some of the best players in the world. Obviously, that should never be in question, being at Manchester United, but sometimes it is. So, well done to United's men's team for getting that deal over the line. Other deals potentially going over the line. So, at the moment, LJ to Chelsea. Chelsea's getting a bit frustrated by it. It's not sealed just yet. So, we'll touch on that a little bit as well. Breaking news coming out of today. Kaya Simon from PSV. Australian striker, Mail Online linking us with her, so that's going to be interesting if that's going to be one of our other signings. We've got about 3 or 4 that we think are nailed down. Is that our 5th one? It potentially is. And I'm also looking forward to hearing what Marissa has to say when she comes on, discussing Arsenal, because it looks like Arsenal's going to be our main threat again this season. I know we've been speaking a little bit about Everton, but Arsenal obviously are the ones that finished above us last season. So let's just say some proper hellos. Ben, how you doing, mate?
I'm good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, good, thank you. I've been out and about today, so I've just come back and looking forward to this one. Vada, how are you? You okay?
All good here.
Thank you for coming back on. I know it's been a little while since the last time you came on. What have you been up to?
I've been covering a lot of cricket, live cricket taking place, waiting for the Olympics to start. I think that's a big one. And of course, following along all the transfer news and the women's domestic season.
Excellent. Yeah, absolutely. Ben, let's start with yourself then. I know you've probably been talking about it on some of the men's shows and you'll be continuing to talk about it on the men's show. But just a shout out to the Jadon Sancho signing. And potentially, is this the reason why Man United women's team are just not announced anything just yet? Is this maybe just a little bit of a men's team week and maybe just holding back and Man United just stretching it out a little bit?
Yeah, possibly, mate. The Jadon Sancho one, though, to be fair, has been like 4 years now, enough in the making. I'd put it all the way back to, I said it last night on the show as well, we did the Jadon Sancho show. I put it all the way back to, I think United's interest was when... way back in when he was in the under-23s as well, because him and Angel Gomez were really best mates. And I know there's been a lot of talk about United trying to poach him off City, even way back then. And I think even before he went to Dortmund, I think United's interest was there. But I don't think City wanted to sell to United. So then obviously he went to Dortmund, earned his stripes at Dortmund. And now finally we're getting our man. But yeah, it's good to see that over the line. Hopefully now, we'll see transfers incoming now a little bit more regular for both the men and the women's side, because it's now time to get down to business and get stuff sorted and hopefully sorted as quickly as possible from a Manchester United point of view. So at least we know what we're going to the season with in terms of the women's side, because we don't want to be keeping on guessing for weeks to come yet. You know, obviously now I think it is the first today, isn't it? So yeah. The Chevrolet deal's over now. So you've got the brand new team viewer deal coming in, starting today. So hopefully that will mean now that we can announce our signings, and you see the new training gears all out today and everything. So hopefully you'll see more of the new training gear, and the new shirt will hopefully get announced soon as well. So you've got players wearing the new shirts or holding up the new shirt and what have you. So hopefully that means we're going to get our business done now over the next week or two. I'm hoping.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's the thing now. And there's been a few pictures I've seen: Millie Turner, Jackie Groenen, seeing Katie Zellum all wearing a new training shirt. I haven't seen the actual first kit yet, but the training strips are out there. Yeah. So the plan for today, guys, is only a 45-minute show this week, purely because the men's team are going to be starting their video or their podcast at 8 o'clock. So we're going to spend about 15 minutes on each team. So we'll start off with Chelsea, then go into Man United, and then finish up with Arsenal. So, Rada, so obviously you just fell a little bit short in the Champions League final. Obviously, you must be really happy with how you ended the season. What are your thoughts going into, obviously, the transfer window now? Obviously, you must be really confident and excited about next season already, whereas me and the Arsenal fans are probably a little bit sceptical. What are your thoughts as a Chelsea fan at the moment?
I think a lot of positive thoughts. The fact that we ended the season on a high in terms of a domestic double. We also are sort of grounded with the loss in the Champions League final. So we know where to work our, small kinks and fix our defensive issues. Immediately we saw Anik now and, signed with Chelsea. So clearly we've got our problems listed out in front of us, and sort of Emma Hayes is working towards fixing them. So I think it is a confident position to be in. I think every time on Twitter when Chelsea are posting a picture, I'm not worried that somebody's leaving. And I think that was a little bit of an issue when I would look at the Arsenal handle or the United handle. And I think now onwards, when they post a picture, it's going to be someone signing. So that's exciting. I think we've sort of reached that stage where we're building up to it instead of just trailing off the last season. And yeah, talking about Chelsea, I think Lauren James coming to Chelsea, that'll be fantastic. But I think it's a very, very confident ride up till the start of the season, and building into that. Hopefully, what will be a 3 times on the trot WSL win, which will be fantastic.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions. The fact that I think every fan in the WSL and across the whole of England are probably expecting Chelsea to go and win the league again next season. Is that kind of like your expectation? Not your expectations, because I'm sure you'd expect that, but is that kind of what you're thinking there, that it's going to be, another league win?
I think that the players are definitely thinking that, because the only time that they think that is when they, bring out the best in themselves. So I am assuming that MIS has made this kind of environment where the players will strive only towards number one. And in that sense, the roll-on effect is that the fans are expecting the highest and the best when it comes to the players right on the field. So I definitely think we go in with a very strong competitive edge. Obviously, there is, no team that can not beat anybody else on their given day. We've seen that in the previous season, and it's only going to grow from this point onwards. So I think Chelsea will have to bring out their best to be the best, and I think they have the capability to do that. And the leadership, the experience, the players themselves, individual skill combined with team chemistry, I think Chelsea are on a high right now.
I think stability is the key for me. I've always said that. I think United women's team had stability for a very long time, for about 2.5 years, and then obviously I think things got a little bit unsettled. But for me, and I always refer back to what my day job is in retail. I think stability is in the store that I work at, or any store that I've worked at, really is important. And I think Chelsea's got that stability. It comes from the top, obviously, like the owners wanting to win over the last 10, 15 years. It comes from your manager, having the same manager for the last 9 or 10 years. She's done it. She just gradually built, and it's growing. She's got that short-term plan and a long-term plan. And I think, me, and I'm sure Marissa, when she comes in shortly, we're at that stage now where we have been unstable, and we're at the start of our next journey. And obviously, it's really exciting to see what that journey is. But we're just starting out where all your hard work and all your preparation is obviously, you're reaping those rewards now, aren't you? Whilst we're in the actual transfer market, transfer window, what kind of positions are you looking at strengthening? Because, you could have quite easily won the treble last season, or, winning the Champions League. Obviously, we fell short in the final, but he's still done amazingly well to get there. What are your thoughts on strengthening your squad?
I think defensively is the first issue, only because hello. Yeah, I think defensive issues are the main concern here, because if you it's often said that if you score you might win, but if you don't concede you can never lose, and I think that's what we have to work on. I think a team reaches one point where they know they're playing 11 and they're like, okay, this is a strong 11, and then the next plan of thought is, what if one is injured, or what if one is out, or what, and then you start working on plan B. And I think our plan B is what we're focusing on right now, in terms of if Maren Mjelde has an injury like she did, who could step in? Our youngsters could step in, but obviously, faltered a little bit at the biggest stage of the Champions League final. So I think plan B is what we're going to work on, how to groom young players coming into the side, and the defensive aspect will be a big one going forward.
Marissa, thank you for joining us.
Hello.
I'm going to let you settle in, and I'm going to come to Ben first. But we're just discussing Chelsea, what Chelsea need for next season, as if they're not dangerous enough. But we are looking at kind of Chelsea to obviously be the front runners again next season. But Ben, we often speak on this show about not wanting a team of Galacticos and wanting to bring youth and quality into the squad. I think Chelsea have kind of done that. They've got some youngsters, but they also, obviously, last season broke the world record for Pernell Harder. And, you know, how do you think Chelsea's going with the way they're doing things at the moment?
For me, I think they're going to be the best team in the country for quite a number of years still. Yeah, the only team that I can physically see them catching is City, because City, they're only on the unlimited funds. Really, you think about who owns the football club. But for me, Chelsea are building a behemoth of a side. They're building a side that they want to go win a treble. They want a Champions League trophy. They're doing things the right way. And they're investing long term. They're giving Emma Hayes the backing that she needs. Listen, they've even given her Chelsea women their own stadium. You know, Wimbledon have moved out and got their own stadium now as well. So, and they've bought Kings Meadow and said, listen, have that as your stadium, which is, I think, is absolutely fantastic. You know, so doing everything the right way for me. I just feel a little bit. If I could just be a little bit critical, is where am I going to see the next youth players propping up from? You know, the next bunch of academy players, because you look at the way Chelsea is spending and buying players. It's like, yeah, you're looking at it more like they are for the men's side. But listen, you can't knock them though, because they're in that position. They've worked very hard to get in that position, and they've backed Emma Hayes 100% all the way. And that's what you're kind of jealous of, as a Manchester United fan a little bit. You know, you look at clubs like Chelsea, you're thinking, if only Casey Stoney had even the fraction of that backing, you know, should have still been in this job, you know, would have been going places a little bit more. But listen, fair play to Chelsea, fair play to their owners, and fair play to Emma Hayes, because let's be fair, she's one of the best coaches in this country, and she can easily step into a men's role, you know, should she want to in future years. But you only have to listen to her on ITV, when she's been on ITV covering the Euros, just how knowledgeable she is about the game. And I think this surprised a lot of people. There's been a lot of people on our men's side of the show that I've been doing the Euro podcast with in the afternoons, and they was all commenting. They couldn't believe how good Emma Hayes was, how knowledgeable she is about the game. So Chelsea, for me, a little bit of a blueprint, if you know what I mean. You know, I don't like comparing United to any other teams. We shouldn't be comparing ourselves to any other teams. But, you know, you just have to look at the way that Emma Hayes has been backed ever since she walked in the door at Chelsea up until now, up until present day. She's been backed with whatever she needs. And listen, she could easily fill up two different squads, and both teams would easily finish within inside the top 4 or 5 of the WSL. So, that's the scary thing. They've got scary strength in depth, and it can only get better for them, which is the bad news for United fans, isn't it?
And Arsenal fans as well. I mean, maybe still.
I was going to say.
Yeah, no, just obviously what are your thoughts of how strong Chelsea are looking. I know obviously City, you know, they did push them close, but let's be honest, Chelsea did look strong pretty much the whole way through last season, and you see what United and Arsenal are doing in the transfer window this year. You know, we are a little bit behind them, and Chelsea are just looking like they're getting further away from us, aren't they?
Yeah, it seems that way. I think Chloe Kelly is a huge miss for Man City, because she was so good last season. You know, I think she was absolutely top quality, considering they brought in American superstars, and I would say Chloe Kelly was their best player, maybe alongside Lauren Hemp. So to have two young English players doing really well was great for them. But yeah, I mean, Chelsea is just on a whole nother level. I think Man City have brought in Khadija Shaw, which I really hope she'll do well.
Yeah.
That would be, hopefully she can hit the ground running, maybe fill in for Chloe Kelly and challenge Chelsea. I think Man City will run Chelsea close like this season, but I think again Chelsea would just be too good.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried that it's going to be a bit of a two-horse race because let's be honest, up until like January time, United were in there. Obviously, you came up strong towards the end, but at the moment, the way things are going, looking at where the transfer situation, Chelsea look just very stable, don't they? And they look like they are going from strength to strength. So for me, until we start seeing some of our transfers come in, and yourself, Marissa, then it does kind of look like it's Chelsea's to lose at this stage. But let's see obviously what happens come September. Let's just see what transfers come in and out. Just a final point on Chelsea, selling out their season tickets already, which I think is absolutely massive. We don't know what the actual allotted number was, but it's still obviously going to be, a lot of, I would think maybe around about, as a guess, maybe 2,000 if we get around about 1,100 as a guess. It's great to see that Chelsea obviously going from strength to strength, but that's probably down to their success, isn't it? Like all their success on the field generated a lot of interest, probably getting some men's team fans over, possibly getting some fans who've never really watched women's football before, but realising, Chelsea are actually a good team here, they're mopping things up, and it's just good to see, isn't it, rather that you got so many fans actually wanting to come to the stadium as well.
It's awesome. And I think a little bit is attributed to the vacuum that COVID created for the whole year, and people just want to get back. But at the same time, you're not going to get back to a team that you don't absolutely love watching or love backing. And Chelsea has kind of made themselves that team in terms of being a team for the fans. I think we saw when they won the title versus Reading, they went up to the stairs and there were a bunch of fans outside, and they kind of, said, thank you. And they kind of paid their respects there as well. So I think they are a team for the fans, and the fans are returning the favor here. So you can see it's very clear that they want to watch them and they want to play for them. I think it's really special, and I hope to God that we have a full stadium when the season starts.
Yeah, and that's what our dream is at LSB. Obviously, we've got a long way to go yet. Our capacity is 12,000, but I know Kings Meadow is probably half or a little bit less than that, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what we want the season to. I think that's what the girls deserve. I mean, Marissa, you kind of what are your thoughts on the Sky deal? Do you think that will kind of help attendances or kind of hinder it? Because the way I'm seeing it is, I think it'll help long term because it'll bring more fans kind of watching the game and then deciding to themselves, yes, now I'm watching it on Sky. I actually want to be there. I want to be there supporting. But then I think a lot of fans are also thinking, I can watch it at home now, so I don't need to travel or whatever. I mean, what are your thoughts on that one, Marissa?
I would say a lot of people usually watch Sky because it's, on the whole, if you're watching like the whole Premier League season or whatever, it's cheaper than going to like sort of one or two matches. When you think the match, the travel, the food, it's an expensive hobby. But women's football, I mean, because I live fairly close to Chelsea, so I go and see Chelsea women quite a lot, obviously, usually when they're playing Arsenal women. But that is much cheaper for a day out. So I still think on the basis that it's reasonably priced to go and see a match, and obviously you're really going to see top quality teams, that hopefully you'll still get enough of a crowd in the stadium, but then even more people watching on the TV deals. So hopefully it will benefit both sides, and that the TV deal wouldn't hinder the fans in the stadiums too much.
I think what I'm looking forward to the most is actually to see what analysis Sky going to do. What's the build-up going to be? What's the half-time going to be? What's
Who are the guests going to be?
Who are the guest presenters? Exactly. There's so much to get stuck into, and I'm glad it's like a long deal because I think it might take a season or two to actually get knowledgeable people who are actually used to presenting on a large scale. But that's a whole different conversation. Ben, let's start talking about Man United then. So breaking news today from the Mail Online is that United are linked with a replacement to LJ. No, I'm not too sure if I would use that word replacement because LJ to me is another level. But she's a striker from PSG. Apparently, she's not an out-and-out striker from what I'm hearing. Sorry, PSV, not PSG. Sorry, Australian. We don't know much about her, do we, Ben? Because obviously we don't really watch some of the European teams, but the kind of caliber that we're going for, it looks like it's all kind of the same kind of caliber, not world class, but maybe the next level down, or even potentially a little bit lower than that, in the hope that we can build them up once they're in the WSL.
Yeah, listen, I don't know much about her, but I've been hearing mixed reports. Some people say we're shopping in the bargain basement and not where we're supposed to be shopping at the very top level. Some people are saying she's actually quite decent. again, for me, it's a bit of wait and see, really, I suppose, because I don't know much about her, you know, as you said, like, but somebody said that should be actually a really good signing. She's one of the top players for Australia. And then, I know the problem with the Man United fan base is they were so reactionary and overreactionary, and people having meltdowns already. Once again, it's just you know, and I've been banging on about this for ages. You know me, John, for months and months and months, and nobody listens to me. Budgets. United haven't got the biggest budget in the world. For a massive club that Manchester United and massive size that United are, we ain't got it, mate. They ain't going to spend it there. Andy Mitten came out and said United women's team's made a big loss on finances, but the owners are not worried too much about that. They'll take that. But I spin it the other way. Just because they're not bothered about it making a loss doesn't mean they're going to pump a lot of money into it. They've got some really, really naffed off fans at the minute. And what's the best way of them to try and worm their way back into the fans' hearts? And that is by spending big on the men's team, by spending some money, much needed money on infrastructure like the training ground, like Old Trafford, because it's been needed for many years now. 16 years it's took them to finally start communicating and pulling their finger out. My fear, as a fan of the women's side as well, is that this women's, and that's one of the reasons, a big reason why I think Casey Stoney left as well. She got promised X, Y, and Z at the start. You know, if you're challenging for Champions League, your budget will be X, Y, Z. You know, we'll increase that budget. And I reckon the budget's been decreased and maybe even halved again. So she's got half a normal budget, basically, you know, less than what she would have had last season, I bet. And I reckon that's what's kicked off. She's sick of banging at the door, begging and begging and begging. And listen, I think it's to be expected, because where they're going to spend the money is where they're going to try and make the money, claw the money back, and that's from the men's team. You think of prize money in the men's football far outweighs the prize money in women's football. You know, even though the Women's Champions League, the prize money is going up with this new DAZN. I think it's called DAZN. I say DAZN, but
I think
with their new deal anyway coming in, but that's nothing compared to even the Championship playoff final. You know, prize money wise. So, you know, I just don't trust them, mate. I just don't trust the owners that we've got to do the right job. And I think the one place where they are going to cut, if anything, cut a bit of money, cut their losses a little bit, will be the women's side. And I think it's been right what's been said. I was shopping in the bargain basement instead of shopping at the very high level to try and compete with Arsenal, to try and compete with Chelsea. Listen, we finished 1 point behind Arsenal last season, you know, in the hunt for the Champions League place. My main fear now is that we could be drifting further away from Arsenal this season, just on what sort of names that we're looking at the minute, you know. And I'm one for them that, you know me, John, I'll give anybody a chance, and I advocate that we buy British and English players and WSL players that have that quality and have that know-how within the league, as well as bringing in your people from abroad and from around the world, and as well as bringing in your hidden gems. But I do fear that we are buying off Casey Stoney's list. But are these the first and second choices of Casey Stoney's list? I think we're looking at 4th, 5th, 6th choices. Arguably, fair enough, Champions League football, we haven't got it. It doesn't help in attracting stars that may want to come. You know, because all the big stars want to play Champions League football, and you can't deny them that. You know. But the one thing that Manchester United have always been good at, even in the men's sort of side of it, is when we haven't got Champions League football, is we're still bringing in them bigger stars because we've had the money there to pay them wage, you know, pay them a little bit more in wages, a little bit higher transfer fee, if you know what I mean, to the clubs that may be willing to sell these players. But in the women's game, things work, as we all know, work a little bit different. And I just don't think we've got the budget there, unfortunately. And I'll shut up in a minute, but I just think this is where you'll see the cutback, and I think Casey saw this coming. You know, you've been seeing for a long time the United fans have been upset with the Glazers. We've seen the protests, and the one thing that I will say is the Glazers would have looked at it and seen, seen mass protests at Old Trafford, but we didn't see any at LSV. You know what I mean? So they're thinking, well, 95% of the fans, we could please them by bringing in your Jadon Sancho, bring in your Rafael Varane's, giving Old Trafford a lick of paint, trying to, expand and extend the Aeon training complex to house the women's team and to improve facilities there. And they may think, yeah, that'll get those fans off our back a little bit, because the women's fans, they're going to be the 5% that we don't care about really. We can handle them in a way. They're not going to create too much noise. But I always think that we always say all equal, all red. We use that hashtag all the time. But are we all equal, all red? Because surely, listen, you're looking at giving Paul Pogba 400k a week to stay. Rafa Varane apparently is after 400k. You know what I mean? Why can't we put 5-10 million aside? Just 5-10 million quid. That's nothing compared to what you spend in the men's game. Just to give the women's team a chance to compete with the likes of Arsenal. To compete, we're not going to compete with Chelsea for a few years, but to compete with people like Manchester City, to get in there, to get the Champions League places, and then we can generate our own. Well, hopefully generate our own money a little bit, so they don't have to put too much of their own money in the grades. Well, it's our money anyway. They're taking our money out. They're taking loads of money out of this football club with dividends, pays, and they're not even paying anything off the debt. That says everything to you. You know what I mean? That debt's going to be, we're going to be labelled with that for a very, very long time still. I'll shut up now, but I just think that's what I feel. I do agree with what people are saying, bargain basement shopping, because that's what it feels like we're doing.
Okay, so obviously I think a lot of, if not everyone, probably agrees with everything that you're saying, because what you're saying is actually true, and we do feel let down as a fan base, and I think this channel itself has got a lot more frustrated since February, March time. But I put a poll or a little tweet out on the AFU Twitter account a couple of 3 days ago, and I'm going to try and put a different spin on it if I can here now. And it was about each individual position, and this is where I can kind of bring Ryder in a little bit as well, because I know that you probably won't be as clued up in who we're potentially signing as maybe Ben is. But I was going to go through a couple of things with you. So I basically went through each position, like goalkeepers, defence, midfielders and strikers, to see if it was actually going to be stronger than last season. So it looks like that we've got a goalkeeper who hardly ever played, going out on loan. And it looks like that we're going to bring Bagley in. So I think that's a very strong backup. Defence, losing Amy T is a massive loss, absolutely. But we are rumoured to be bringing in a player that I don't think I'm allowed to say the name just yet, because Natalie will kill me. But she's a Champions League player, so I'm hoping that is correct. So I think if we can bring in maybe one additional one to that one, potentially our defence could get stronger. Midfield, I don't think we're going to lose anyone, but we're going to be getting Borisa, which we certainly think that's been the case since January, which I think is a massive signing. Strikers is probably the one where I concede. I don't think anyone's going to be as good as, player for player compared to Tobin and Christian Press, even though Tobin only played half a season. Christian Press probably only played half a season. But I still think obviously those strikers were, obviously very good talents and a big loss. So when I start saying these things to you, Ryder, are you kind of worried at all about? Are you looking over your shoulder at United, or are you kind of thinking, yeah, maybe these players coming in are maybe more for the future, maybe 3 or 4 seasons time, but maybe not this season coming?
I definitely am not counting United out. I think, there's no way you can count them out after the season that they've had, especially the first half, when it was not expected at all. And I think we've come to the stage in this tournament where you don't count any team out, otherwise you're going to pay. And so I think as a viewer, I am excited to see more players come in. For a team that doesn't have a coach yet and, missed out on Champions League qualification, any player you get is a win. And the fact that you're getting such quality players, like you mentioned, is a big move going. I think it speaks to the name itself, the brand Manchester United, why people want to come and play for this team. And a lot of it was to do with Casey, where, if you had a really good coach, the players would come. Now, the fact that Casey is left and you still are getting players, it's great. It's great news. I would be definitely looking over my shoulder to United, and I would not even be surprised if they come shoulder to shoulder with us, when we play each other. So I think it's good to see more competition come in. Obviously, it's worrying that your top spot might be taken. But I think if your top spot is taken by another top team, that top team deserves it. So I don't want to just like sit there at the top and say, okay, you guys battle it out at the bottom. It's a case of playing good football and playing top quality football to retain that title. So I'm very excited to see the players that you mentioned come in. I hope they sign ASAP. I think Bagley is a great shout. She's been playing consistently in the WSL and be a great backup keeper to Mary. And yeah, look, Borisa in midfield. Of course, the strikers, as you mentioned, LJ, Tobin Kristen leaving might be a bit of a concern. But I think, with the new manager coming in and, of course, everything settling down towards the end of the season, that will be something they look to fix and look to work on immediately. So I think, it's looking a little bit hopeful now.
It's Martha Thomas and Kia Simon who are supposed to be coming in this season. Well, definitely Thomas. Simon's only been mentioned today, so that's definitely not. I'm not going to say that's going to happen. But for me, it's always going to be Russo as number one. So as long as she's fit, she's going to be the 8-to-8 striker. So if you have a look at our starting 11, I still don't think it's that bad. I mean, people in the comments might disagree, but I'm thinking maybe 2 players out of the starting 11, maybe 3. It's probably below par, but whereas the rest are very strong. I'm not going to name them, but I think we can probably kind of see who deserves to be in the starting 11 and who doesn't. But I still think we got a very strong starting 11. I think we had even a stronger starting 11 last season with Tobin Heath. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the LJ deal, Ryder, before we move to Arsenal? Because it's still ongoing, it's still not actually being confirmed. I'm hearing that like Chelsea are getting frustrated because of Jets. Is there a chance that this could potentially fall through?
I wouldn't count that out because it usually doesn't take that long. And obviously, LJ is a very valued asset to the team that she's potentially leaving and the team that she's potentially joining. So I'm also kind of eagerly waiting to see what turns out there. But it seems to be that LJ has consciously made the move back home and kind of, stepped out of United for that reason. And I don't think she would step out of United unless she actually wanted to go somewhere else. So maybe they're kind of fixing the salaries or whatnot. But I do think that the deal will be okay towards the end.
I think we're just very lucky that she's still under contract, so we can still hold. We've still got a little bit of bargaining tool there. So I think that's definitely good for United. Definitely what we need and deserve, to be honest. And Marissa, just your thoughts on United's kind of transfer rumours at the moment. Obviously, you're in a similar boat towards the end of last season. A little bit unstable, but. Are you looking at United and thinking they're going to be our biggest threat next season, or are you like a lot of United fans looking over your shoulder thinking Everton's creeping up?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about United. Say the first half of last season, definitely they were, really up there. But in the second half, they tailed off quite a bit. So I'm not sure whether I'd be seeing them as much competition as it did in the first half of last season. So, as you said, there still needs to be some improvements. I think if you got Sophie Bagley, I think she's an absolutely brilliant keeper. I think she could easily displace Earps because sometimes I think Earps a bit shaky, doesn't come for corners. Like I think he lost to Reading 2-1. It was 2 corners. So I think Bagley could very easily push Earps and, really solidify her position if she gets a few games and does well there. Like you said, Amy Turner's a big miss. I don't know if you've got a replacement coming in for her. And then strikers, I'd say, would be your main other one, you'd think. But have you got enough midfielders playing to the strikers, get some goals? Because you want defenders probably chipping in with goals at corners, midfielders chipping in, setting up the strikers. Goals from everywhere, is never a bad thing. So I think just a few more signings to give you options. So let's say there's a few players out of the starting 11. Is the second team, the bench going to be able to have some game changers on it to make a difference? That's always what every team looks for, because there were times last season Arsenal had youth players on their bench. You're like, well, it's just going to have to be stuck with the first team then. As long as you've got a few off the bench you could bring on and make a difference, that's always handy. So if you manage to get a few additions, perhaps, maybe could challenge for Champions League spots again.
Mm-hmm. Natalie's in the comments. Thank you, Natalie. Hope you're having a good week off. I think she's out. I'm not too sure if she's back from London yet, but she's out and about enjoying herself. Absolutely. So let's have a little bit of talk about Arsenal then, Marissa, because they've had a bit of a busy week. I think I saw a club statement that went down really well. New manager, I didn't know much about him, but I've heard some of his quotes, and I think they're very, very good. What are your impressions this week?
Yeah, pretty much the same. He seems like a women's version of Julian Nagelsmann. Got injured really early in his career, went into coaching, seems to be doing really well. He's young, seems to play the sort of football that Arsenal like, that fast attacking, Wenger ball, we'll just call it that, that we've missed. But the women's team seem to keep going. The women's team have got some quality players and score great goals. So if he can come in and sort of keep that ball rolling, it'll be brilliant. But like you said, I've read a lot of his quotes and seen the interviews so far, and he seems sort of like exactly what we need at this moment. So, the longer you go and you don't have a manager, you think, oh my gosh, what are we waiting for? Players are leaving. Who is the new manager going to get to come in? Like, even if players come in, you think, is the new manager going to like them? You just have all these worries and things. So now that we've got a manager, I just hope we can start signing some players. Hopefully keep Vivian Miedema, but these rumors about Leon don't seem to be going away. So nervous about that one. As in, if you get Nikita Paris in, it's just not the same. Miedema is and so much younger, and just Netherlands top scorer at her age. That's just phenomenal. So she'd be a huge loss. But I think, this new manager seems to be quite impressive from what I've heard so far. So hopefully he can just carry on sort of the early tenure of Joe Montemuro's time, like when we won the league. If we could get back to even just challenging Chelsea and Man City a lot further, being like 1 or 2 points from the title or something, you say you've put in a really good challenge over the season. So we can hope that I'd like to beat Chelsea again. It's been a while. So beat Man City. Those are the top teams. We seem to always beat everyone around them and then come to Chelsea and Man City and just explode. And that's where we lose valuable points. So if we could even, beat Chelsea or Man City at least once next season, that's an improvement in itself. So I just hope we keep our quality players. We've got Kim Little, Jordan Nobbs, Leah Williamson signed a contract extension. Yeah. So on the whole, it seems fairly good. But, I was gutted to lose Van der Donk. That one sort of came out of the blue for me. And, it was such a shame. So there's good and there's bad. But hopefully we've got someone exciting to replace her. But I'm really going to miss her.
What do you think? What do you think that you need to actually challenge Chelsea next season? Player-wise, like not necessarily naming players, but like within your squad, because I know that obviously you were threadbare last season as well. Do you think you need that touch of class, or do you think you need more strength in numbers?
Yeah, I think quite a good few midfielders, because like Kim Little has a lot of injuries, Jordan Nobbs, and Leo Volti was out at some point, so just a few more midfielders that can cover. Again, if Miedema leaves, then another striker. Obviously not going to be at her quality, but just somebody there. Maybe even a backup for Beth Mead. She wasn't that great last season. Just competition to push the team. Like I was saying with Man United, you want a strong bench. Sometimes our bench last season was a lot of academy players, and you think you can't really throw them on and hope for the best. You want, like Chelsea can bring on quality. Just whenever they make a sub, be like, well, you don't even know the difference, because they've got such top quality players they can change with. If Arsenal need to get to that level where you bring on a sub and it's the exact same quality that replaces them, and you think, all right, no worries, we could, go on and win this game or something. So I think just more strength in depth. Chelsea, Man City, that is their main asset. That, even when Chloe Kelly went off injured, I think they were like 2-0 up. They still went on and won 4-0 against Birmingham. So it didn't make, it was bad to lose her, but it didn't make enough difference for them not to win the match. Just more strength in depth, more quality, and say, okay, this player goes off, another one comes on, and we're still going to win the match.
You mentioned Beth Mead's name there, and we've been mentioning it for about 6 weeks now. We heard a bit of a rumour that she might have been a little bit unhappy, and we need a right winger to kind of compete with Kirsty Hansen, and maybe she can play up front as well, and we need strikers.
Nah, hands off, look elsewhere.
I mean, do you like Beth Mead? I mean, what do you think? Because obviously there's some fans saying no, she's not good enough. There's some fans actually saying yeah, she could quite slot in nicely. I mean, what are your thoughts? Obviously, you see a lot more than we do.
I just see everyone has a bad season. It just didn't really go well. When we won the league, she was one of our best players. Okay. The whole team wasn't at their best last season. We had good times, bad times, and she sort of got caught up in the middle of that. I just think hopefully have a good pre-season. She's not in the Olympic squad, so have some time off and hopefully come back strong, fit and firing. Because on the whole, the season she's been there, she's been really good for us. So like last season was a blip, it can happen, but still don't want to go in anywhere else. So, like I said, find some different targets.
One last thing before I bring Ben and Ryder back in. A few things behind the scenes regarding facilities and the academy teams. I don't know if you've read too much about it, but I've had a little look. What are your thoughts on it? It's great to see that the money's been invested in the facilities. I think it's been well known for a long time, but especially coming out on social media the last 6 months, Man United has been a big part of that. Birmingham City has been a big part of that. Obviously, it's great to see. Obviously, Arsenal's going to. Every team's going to start saying the right things, but whether or not they actually act upon it, that's another question. But it looks like that they're saying the right things. And also the academy as well, getting that extra kind of layer in there, something slightly different. What are your thoughts on those things, Melissa?
Yeah, I think that's great. That's what you want. You want to build from something. You want a base that you can progress. It's all right bringing in players from abroad, and of course they've got great quality, but you want to say, oh, look, we can pluck someone from our own academy and they can do great. Leah Williamson is a huge example of that. We want more Leah Williamsons that love Arsenal, top quality, and they feel comfortable at the club. Like, we're not training them up for them just to go elsewhere. We can build an academy that, rivals other teams. Definitely, I think that's a great thing. And I also read that we're going to have more matches at the Emirates, which I mean, that more is in there. I find, a laugh because we haven't had any. More would suggest we've had at least one match at the Emirates. And I mean, considering we play a lot better than the men sometimes, this is sort of long overdue. Because, you've had Chelsea playing at Stamford Bridge, actually went to that match. Man United were playing at Old Trafford last season. West Ham have played at London Stadium. I went there. The only team I haven't seen play at the men's stadium is my own team. They did at the Emirates Cup, I think, a few years ago, and I went to that, which was great, So why not make it more of an occasion? Okay, it's not going to be rammed, but start something. Let the women's team know that this is your home as well. So I think that would be really good, because I always think any club to be at their men's stadium adds another level of excitement. Maybe men's team fans who haven't watched the women's team always go to the Emirates, would come to that match. So I think hopefully, those sort of things in the background will lay the foundation for the whole squad. So it looks good. As you said, looks good, sounds good. Let's hope actually comes to fruition.
I am conscious of time, so we'll just cut it a little bit short now, just to Ryder and Ben just finish up on your thoughts. So Ryder, your thoughts on your London rivals, Arsenal. What are you expecting of them next season?
I've always thought this at the back of my mind, that the number of players and the quality of players, you go down that Arsenal roster, I'm surprised that they just don't want more from themselves. I don't think I saw that fire in the previous season. And top players to settle for, third spot, Champions League, we've done it kind of thing. I felt a bit disappointed. I know they're Chelsea rivals, but I want to see a good rivalry, and I think that was missed a little bit this season. And I think just echoing what Melissa said, we need to see that Arsenal that was at the peak of, when Joe Montemurro came in early stages where they won the league. I think that's the Arsenal that we know they can beat. And for Beth Mead especially, she had, I think, 9 assists and 4 goals this season, and that was considered a bit of a blip. Shows you what kind of a player she is and what she can contribute to the team, right? So I think they just have to click. They have to work with each other and come out and impose themselves. And once they do that, I think, surely the football is there. They're not lacking in skill or technique or anything. It's maybe a little bit of implementation that is lacking there. And I think confidence and a lot of the mental aspect has to do with that as well. So I'm hoping new coach, new investment, everything going right for them, a bit of a new chapter coming in for them. And hopefully we have a good rivalry coming up.
Yeah, that would be good.
Absolutely. Ben, just finish up for yourself. So Arsenal have obviously made their announcements first. It doesn't necessarily mean that their announcements are going to be any better. It's just that they're kind of striking first on social media and on the announcements. We haven't really announced any ins yet. We've got a lot waiting. But what are you kind of expecting from United now in the next 2 weeks?
Action, mate. Action. Keep saying action speaks louder than words, mate. It's got to be the next 2 weeks, mate. Within the next 2 weeks, we can't go into pre-season without a manager announced. So I'm hoping hoping they've done it all behind the scenes, and they're just, they're waiting for the new sponsorship deals to kick in and the new shirts to come out and everything. And then, you know what United are like with that sort of media side. Social media means everything to them, all the clicks and the views and what have you. So I just think that it's the business time of the transfer window now, and the business time of the summer, if you will. Because we're fast approaching on pre-season and be here before we know it. So we need to get our acts together, get our manager sorted, get the players in that we need, and hopefully, if we've got a little bit, fingers crossed, we've got a little bit of cash left over, we can bring in 1 or 2 players in that the new manager would like. So. Just action, mate. Action speaks louder than the words in this football club. Sometimes they're very, very slow on the action part, but very fast at running their mouths. So it's about time we see action. So hopefully, we'll get it the next week or 2, John. Fingers crossed. Otherwise, the meltdown's just going to keep on happening, mate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Looking to be shorter tonight. For the first time ever, we are actually on a time limit, so we have got to kind of shoot off. But thank you very much, Marissa and Ryder, for coming back on. Please try and come back on before the opening game of the season. Let's try and get everyone back on. We're going to try and get Emma on from Man City as well. It'd be great to get all the top 4 teams on. I don't have any Everton supporters, but if you guys do, please just forward them on to me, and maybe we can get an Everton fan on here as well. Mm-hmm. If anybody wants to get hold of you, Ryder, or your podcasts, how can people do that?
Yeah, it's on the screen at She Talks Ball on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And yeah, I'm always down for chatting women's football or women's sports in general. So yeah, hit me up.
Excellent. Marissa, yourself?
Yep, I'm at Marissa Thomas 96 on Twitter. So feel free to engage in women's football chat there.
Absolutely. Ben, if nobody knows who you are, where can they find you, mate?
MUFC on the screen. Really, I'll keep it nice and short today, mate. I'm not going to plug everything. So, MUFC on the screen.
Excellent, thank you. And obviously, you can find me on Twitter as well, John Foster MUFC. Thank you very much, guys. Really interesting to hear everybody else's opinion on different clubs. And we've got to go, but we'll see you again very soon. Thank you, guys.
No problem. See you.